Let's start. Welcome everyone to today's webinar. My name is Rickard Hilmersson and I'm the head of sales for DigiPlex in the Nordics. We estimate the time for the webinar somewhere between 25 to 30 minutes, and it will be recorded and sent to all of you afterwards. If you have any questions, please leave them in the Q&A section at any time, and we will answer them at the end of the presentation. Shortly, I will hand over to McGuinness from Megaport, who will give us insight on cloud deployments. But before I do that, I would like to quickly talk about how you can utilize Megaport and other services in our ecosystem in Norway, Denmark, and Sweden. As of today, Megaport has presence in 2 of our data centers, in Oslo and in Stockholm. Customers in any of our other 5 data centers can still access Megaport or any other service in our ecosystem using our platform Nordic Connect. Nordic Connect is the platform that connects all our 7 data centers. Please reach out to anyone at DigiPlex for more information regarding Nordic Connect. DigiPlex is also carrier neutral, which gives you as a customer a wide range of options for the connectivity solution of your choice. And with that, I would like to hand over to you, McGuinness. Are you ready?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Rickard.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, so let's just jump into some of the details here. Yeah, I'll just take you through some of the information that we gathered in the IDC Nordic Multicloud Survey 2019. I'd just like to start off with one of the survey questions, which is basically asking about organizations' cloud strategies. So we can see 2 different charts here. The chart on the left shows that many organizations were quite ad hoc and opportunistic about the adoption of cloud. And then we see on the right-hand side, going forward, what organizations would like to do is to become more managed and optimized. So they would like to be less reactive, less opportunistic. They would like to have IT leadership policy in place, looking at cloud strategy broadly implemented across their organizations and looking at increasing IT operational efficiency. So, that's really the desired approach that we can see with most companies. Whereas, with ad hoc and opportunistic, what you often see is shadow IT and shadow cloud being implemented. So budgets not properly being formulated and basically different departments setting up cloud instances or using cloud without a broad strategy across the organization. When we look then at the number of services that the organizations are using for the different ways to deploy cloud, whether it's dedicated, private hosted, on-demand hosted, public infrastructure as a service, and a hyperscaler, we can see that most organizations are looking at 3 or more services in one or multiple of these different ways to deploy cloud. And what that means is, as you have an increasing number of applications moving to cloud, it's more and more likely that those will be spread across different clouds. It is, of course, possible to deploy in a single hyperscaler many different services, but as you increase those across time, what you'll find is that you might be looking for the best in breed service. There might be a special feature in another cloud that you'll need to reach out to. It could be costs. It could be something that's available inside your region that you need to get access to. So all of these reasons will start to encourage you to reach out and go across multi-cloud, because it becomes more and more difficult to deploy in a single cloud as you have more and more services and applications deployed. And then when we look at network and how companies look at their networking strategy going to cloud, it's often still left as an afterthought. And this is sort of hard to believe, but we see this day in, day out at Megaport, whereby customers have looked at their strategy, they've looked at where they want their services, which cloud, they know what they want to deploy, they know how they want multi-cloud to operate, and they know obviously where their on-prem data centers are. but they often leave the connectivity piece until it's very late in the strategy, which it sounds like an impossible thing to forget to a later stage, but some organizations do leave that quite late. And then they're running to catch up on that network strategy. And then as we look at how many companies connect directly to cloud service providers, we can see that it's around 70% internet, 30% directly connecting. And a direct connection could be a dedicated connectivity to a cloud. That's fine if you have a single cloud, but as you go to multiple different cloud providers, it becomes very difficult to have redundant cloud connectivity across multiple cloud providers. It's much better to go to a partner, a broker that can connect you to multiple clouds from a single or multiple locations. So 30%, it looks quite low here, but actually that's pretty even number that we see throughout Europe. These are for organizations who maybe have compliance reasons for direct connectivity. Maybe it's around security. Maybe they're not allowed to put their data on the internet, or they just want that extra bit of assurance, and they want to use a private network all the way from their private network into the cloud providers that they want to reach. Okay, so just kind of comparing that to how Megaport offers connectivity. If we look at how we compare to traditional connectivity, so Megaport has really come along and shaken up the market, really disrupting what we have to offer in the market. And if you look at traditional connectivity, you can see that if you wanted to have a traditional connection, you often had to negotiate the price for a long-term contract. You had to agree on the bandwidth that you needed for that long-term contract, and you had a limited amount of providers to get that from. So a very manual operation. Megaport is looking more like a cloud provider. So we are focusing on giving our customers the ability to self-serve. So we give you a portal. You can go into that portal and provision all of your services. Once you get connected to us, the rest is entirely under your control. It's high-speed provisioning. You can turn up and down the data rates to suit your needs, and then you pay for what you provision on the network. So if you want to have a 100 meg connection to a cloud provider, you can have that. If you want to turn it up to 10 meg for a few days, you can do that and then turn it back down again, as long as the cloud provider allows you to do that. Okay, and then we're available in many of the major, or all of the major cloud providers, and many other partners as well globally. As we look at our network over the years, we can see how that has grown. On the top chart, we have around the edge the actual ports that have been deployed by customers, and then through the middle we have these connections, which we call virtual cross connections. So these are connecting point to point at layer 2 across our network, and you can see how that's grown over the years. It's become really a busy chart at this stage, but you can see the concentration of the different cloud providers as well at, let's say, 2 o'clock on this diagram, 3, 4, and 5 o'clock. Those are the cloud service providers, which are the ever popular place that customers want to connect into. Looking at the bottom chart, we can see the 3 main services that we offer. So there's a direct public cloud, there's internet exchanges, and there's private connections. So public cloud is getting to the AWS, Google, Microsoft Azure. Internet exchanges are peering locations where companies can join and connect to each other across those internet exchanges that Megaport owns and operates globally. And we also connect into third-party internet exchanges. Private connectivity is where customers will take a connection in a single data center, let's say in DigiPlex in Stockholm, and then they'll connect into another data center somewhere globally on the Megaport network. So we've got a choice of over 700 data centers that you can connect to and from. And this allows you to have an MPLS replacement type service. Again, the data rate is highly flexible between 1 megabit per second and 10 gigabits per second. and entirely under your control. So you could, for example, set up a port in Stockholm, a port in Singapore, and then provision services between those, and indeed keep adding additional locations around the world. And what we can see from this chart at the bottom, it's not that the private connectivity or internet exchange activity has diminished in any way. It's also growing, but it's just not growing near as fast as the public cloud connectivity. And that's what most customers are coming to us for. Okay, so let's just have a little look at how we're connected to our partners and the major cloud providers today. It's quite difficult for us to keep this slide up to date because it's always changing. I've seen an update this morning, and this is up now to 220 total on-ramps. And an on-ramp is basically a connectivity point that the cloud provider is dictating to us. And we go and meet the cloud provider, and we meet all of their standards to be able to allow a network-to-network interface with them. So, for example, AWS has Direct Connect, Microsoft Azure has ExpressRoute, and Google Cloud has Partner Interconnect. And these are the locations that you can connect into with those clouds. You don't have to connect to the local cloud if you don't want to. So again, in the Stockholm example, if you connect to Megaport in DigiPlex Stockholm, this will allow you to get to any of the on-ramps shown on this page. So you can reach out to Google Cloud in Montreal if you want, in North America, Northeast 1. It's entirely under your control. Okay, so let's have a look at the connectivity models. How do you actually get connected to the Megaport network? So this is what it looks like. What we're expecting you to do is, starting from the top, we want you to come into our portal and provision a port. Then we will give you a letter of authorization, and you can order a cross connect from DigiPlex from your device into the Megaport port. Once that physical cross connect is complete, you will then be able to create VLANs or virtual cross connects from that trunk port across to many different things. Again, entirely under your control, and you can provision up to 100 connections from that physical port. With regards to the pricing, a port is 500 euros per month, and the virtual cross connects depend on the data rate that you provision and where the B end is, so what you're connecting into. If it's local, we have some local metro pricing, and all of our pricing is available on our website as well. So we're very open in all of the details that we provide. So like I said, we're connecting to the cloud on-ramps. In this example, we're not doing anything special. We're not reinventing special interfaces to the cloud. We're using their direct connects, their express routes, their partner interconnects. And then you can connect to those as required. In this model, this is a layer 2 connection between the port and the cloud provider, and you would establish BGP between your device and the cloud provider in this case to get that layer 3 complete. Incidentally, I'm also showing on the left-hand side the port-to-port connection. So this port shown here on the left-hand side could be anywhere in the world. It could be a port that you own in another data center, but it also could be a partner device or a partner port anywhere else on the Megaport network. So if you want to connect to another partner, you can ask them also to get a Megaport port, and you can connect flexibly across your 2 ports across our network and be in control of the data rates that you provision between those 2. So it's a nice way to make an ecosystem on the Megaport network without having to swap physical devices between locations or any other type of cumbersome connectivity. So that's it, looking from a layer 2 point of view. I'd like to just talk a little bit about the Megaport Cloud Router as well. So this is a layer 3 virtual routing device, and you can spin up this layer 3 device in many different locations around the world. You can decide on the size of the device from 1 gigabit per second throughput right the way up to 10 gigabits. And you can deploy it in redundant configurations as well if you want. And the idea is that if you've got workloads that are in the cloud and you've got cloud-to-cloud communications as you become more multi-cloud, you can spin up the Megaport cloud router and connect those two clouds together and pass data privately from cloud to cloud. So none of this data is going out on the internet. So that's increased security there, obviously. You're also using those private interfaces from the cloud. So the express routes, the direct connects, the partner interconnects, those all have lower egress fees than using the internet, much lower egress fees. So even if you're just doing a small amount of egress data from the cloud, it makes sense to use that private connectivity and connect it together with the Megaport cloud router. Again, under your control, you can spin this up in a minute and start connecting it to clouds privately today. And you don't have to be in the same data center as the cloud router to use it. You can connect cloud to cloud, and you can also connect the cloud router back to your port in the data center as well. So let's look at a customer use case. And this one is for Kiwi.com, who is one of the largest growing travel agents in the world. Obviously, this flexibility is useful for them in times of COVID right now so that they can optimize their services in a changing market. But what they've done is they've connected their enterprise into a Megaport-enabled data center. And then from there, they're connecting into the Megaport cloud router in a location near to where their traffic has to travel. And then they have connectivity to AWS and Google as well. So the communications between the two clouds in this case can go directly cloud to cloud, and then anything that needs to go back to the data center can go back to the DC as well for on-prem. Okay, and then just to finish off and just have a summary of the connectivity models that we're offering, and then I'll jump into a demo. On the top left is what I spoke about earlier, where you've got data center to data center. So you provision a port in each of these data centers. That can be a 1 gig port, a 10 gig port, and we have 100 gig ports as well upon demand. And then you can provision these virtual cross connects across our network. That's entirely flexible. And that can be two different parties connecting together as well. At the top right is the ever popular connectivity to a data center and then connections across to cloud. And from this data center port, a single physical port, let's say it's a 10 gig, for example, you can have those 100 connections coming off that 10 gig physical port and connect into all of your different cloud providers from that single port. If you want to, you can have multiple connections to AWS and Azure and all of the other clouds as well. So by doing that, you can keep your different workloads separate. You can give your developers, for example, a private connection that they can burst up and down, they can test all they like upon that connection. And then you can give your production workloads more dedicated bandwidth that will not be interrupted by development activities, as an example. Bottom left is cloud to cloud. So great for companies that are born in the cloud, or if you wanted to do database migrations or moving from one cloud to another, then you could use the Megaport cloud router for that. And remember, you don't have to be in that data center to use the cloud router. And then on the bottom right, like we saw with the Kiwi example, is the use of a port inside a data center and then a Megaport cloud router giving you that cloud to cloud when required, but also hybrid multi-cloud model as well. Okay, so I'm going to just drop out of the slides and give you a quick demo. And I'm moving across now to the Megaport portal. So all of the provisioning can be done through the Megaport portal, and everything that you'll see inside the portal is also API enabled. So if you want to use the APIs to do automation on the network, then you can automate everything that you can do via the portal. Anyone can register for the portal. It's really quick to get signed up and start using services. You just need to add some details about your company, add some users, and then you're ready to go. And this is a shared portal, so there's lots of other services existing in here already. So I'm just going to filter those out. So at the top, we've got very simple way to start. You can create a Megaport Cloud Router, like I mentioned earlier, decide on the location, the size of that, and spin it up and start connecting it. We've got a new product allowing you to connect in with SD-WAN solutions, so a short hop across the internet. We're not covering that today, but that is being launched in April. And then what I'm going to demo now is creating a port. So as I create that port, we can see all of the locations where Megaport is deployed globally. And I'm going to filter this down to DigiPlex. So we've got the Ulven data center in Norway, and we've got the Stockholm DC as well. Okay, so let's just choose the Ulven data center. And then on the next page, this is where we provision all of the details for this port. So we can choose a 1 gig or 10 gig port. They cost the same. So there's no difference in here. This portal happens to be set up for US dollars, but essentially that is 500 euros. And then we'll give it a port name. So this is our port. Each customer can decide if you want to make your port visible on the Megaport marketplace. And this is really for Megaport partners who want to offer services across the marketplace. Most private enterprises want to keep their ports private. You can decide on the term of the port. You're not locked in. You just you can subscribe to a rolling month term if you want to. So that's a 1 month, and you can cancel it any time and just pay for that month. If you want to go into a longer term contract, 12 months gets you a 5% discount, and 36 months gets you a 10% discount. You can add an invoice reference to everything. And there's also an option inside the data center to create a diverse pair of ports. So you can create a port in the blue zone and red zone so that they will be never in maintenance at the same time, and they will always be entirely separate inside the data center. So it's a good way to achieve diversity. You can also lag together ports. So that means joining up to 8 ports together in a link aggregation group to get you 80 gigabits from your data center to the other things that you connect into. So that's another option. But that's all you have to provision. You get a summary of your what you've just set up for the port, and then you add the port. And then it appears in a shopping cart on the left-hand side. Once I click order, I get the term of the port, the price, a link to the global services agreement with the SLA included, and then I can go ahead and order now. Okay, so that port is now being deployed. And as I filter out the other services, we can see this port has been dropped into the red zone within the Ulven data center for DigiPlex Oslo. The first time the port comes up, we give you these tiles just to encourage you to make the next step into cloud. But this port will be available for us to use in about 1 minute. And we will see at the top here a link to the letter of authorization appearing at the top. Your port is free for 2 weeks until you get the physical cross connect in place, and DigiPlex, of course, will help you with that cross connect and get that in place fairly quickly. Nothing, physical had to happen in this data center. We are all pre-cabled in these DCs, and now I've got the letter of authorization. So if I click on that, it opens up a single page PDF that you would give to DigiPlex to create your cross connect. So back to the port, I'm just going to create a quick connection into Google. I've already got a VLAN attachment set up. I copy the key, take it back to the portal and click on Google. And I'm going to put in the key, and it will give me many different options for where to connect, which on-ramp into Google I connect to. So in this case, I'm going to select Stockholm. I click next, I give it a name. So this is my VXC to Google. I can choose the data rate that I want right the way up to 10 gig. So let's just choose a 200 meg connection. I can choose the AN VLAN ID. So this is the ID that will be presented in the DigiPlex data center in Ulven at your port. And that's everything. I get a summary, add the VXC, and then again, I just go through the order process. And it's as quick as that. And I could, of course, then go back and add a connection to AWS, to Oracle, to Nutanix, to lots of different services, and anyone on our marketplace as well. We've over 300 different providers on the marketplace as well. Okay, so hopefully that's clear. I've made a port in the data center, and I've made one connection to Google. So with that, Rickard, let's just drop back into the slides and let's check if we have any questions at this point.
No questions at this point.
Yeah, so you can drop your questions into the question area if you would like to. One thing that people often do ask me about, Rickard, is why would you go through Megaport instead of just going directly to a cloud provider? And hopefully I addressed it earlier, but just to reiterate, it becomes very difficult to have multi-cloud when you're going to different cloud providers, especially if you want to do that in a redundant way, because you would have to get a last mile connection, let's say to AWS Direct Connect, and then do that again. And then you'd have to do the same with Microsoft and double that up, and so on and so forth. And it becomes quite difficult, and you end up managing a very large network. If you connect with Megaport, you can connect in 1 or 2 data centers with us for resilience, and then provision redundant cloud connectivity all under your own control in the portal or with the API.
Brilliant. So it gives you a lot of opportunities to create the solution that suits your company. And
yeah, great. We do document everything as well. We've got step-by-step information on all of the services, and it really is straightforward to do. I'm a solution architect, and I'm very happy to jump on and review people's architecture as well. And Carissa Newsham is our account manager, who is willing to help also. Yeah, so we have a question asking, how do we make sure that the person ordering the services is permitted or authorized to commit to the expenditure? That's a great question. As you set up your company, you have the ability to set up different users with different roles. So there's everything from read-only right the way up to company admin, which can do everything. We've also got some technical roles, which allows technical users to build all of the services, but then we have another role that allows that user to order the services. And we've got some financial roles as well, so that they can go in and see the billing, they can see what's happening and control all of those types of things. So, the control is there, and you can give the responsibility to certain people. And this is just in the same way that you would use the clouds. So within AWS, you ultimately have to give someone responsibility for provisioning and buying the services, and they are flexible. There are costs involved, and that's up to you who you allocate to that role. So hopefully that answers the question.
It's in the full control of the company, so to speak.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much, Paul. With that, I think we thank all those who have attended, and please reach out to me or Paul if there are any questions. Thank you very much, Paul. It was very interesting to hear this information.
That's great. Thank you for hosting us today. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Take care.